In the deep, baking sand of the Egyptian wilderness, thousands of people walked away from everything they knew, stepping into a silent wasteland to fight a hidden war for their souls. The heat was heavy enough to crush a person. The wind blew endless waves of sharp sand, wiping away any footprints they left behind. There were no paths, no towns, and no safety. It was a dead place where nothing grew. Yet early Christians were rushing into this terrible emptiness by the thousands. We are going to uncover the chilling truth behind this mass escape. These men and women were not lost, and they were not chased out of their homes. They made a terrifying choice to vanish on purpose. They left behind soft beds, warm food, and loving families to face starvation, wild beasts, and a crushing silence. To understand their profound choice, we must look at the dark forces pushing them into the dry, burning desert. For hundreds of years, the Roman Empire hunted believers. Following the Christian faith was a crime that ended in blood and fire. But suddenly the rules of the world changed. A new emperor took power, and the faith became legal. It became safe, popular, and even a way to get rich. The threat of violent death stopped, but a new, quiet danger crept into the churches. The radical believers saw this new safety as a deadly trap. When faith became easy, they watched people grow lazy, greedy, and soft. The hard, pure truth of their religion was getting lost in fancy buildings and rich clothes. To save their own souls from this quiet poison, they realized they had to run. They believed the only way to find real ancient wisdom was to leave the comfortable world completely behind. The spark for this wild movement started with a rich young man named Antony. He had lands, money, and an easy life ahead of him. One day he heard a single sharp message about giving everything away to the poor. Instead of just nodding and going home, Antony actually did it. He sold his huge farm. He gave away every single coin he had. But Antony did not just move to a poorer street in his town. He walked out to the edge of the city, found an old dark tomb where the dead were buried, and locked himself inside. He cut himself off from the sun and from human voices. This shocking step was not a mistake. It was a planned, extreme test to break his own pride and face the dark corners of his own mind in total isolation. Soon, others followed his strange path into the wasteland, becoming known as the Desert Fathers. The physical horrors of their new home were absolute. During the day, the sun baked their skin until it blistered. At night, the temperature dropped so fast that the cold froze their bones. They lived in deep dirt holes, dark caves, or the broken ruins of forgotten temples. Every single day was a brutal fight just to stay alive. They ate almost nothing. Some lived on just a few hard pieces of bread and dirty water for weeks at a time. They wore rough, scratchy animal hair that rubbed their skin raw. Their bodies grew thin and weak, but this terrible pain was exactly what they wanted. They believed starving the body was the only way to feed the spirit. Yet the hardest fight was not against the burning sun or the empty stomach. The darkest part of their isolation was the terrifying battle inside their own heads. When you strip away all noise, all friends, and all food, the human mind begins to play cruel tricks. In the dead silence of the sand, their worst fears and hidden desires grew into monsters. They spoke of fighting actual demons in the dark, but these monsters were the darkest parts of human nature coming to the surface. Anger, lust, greed, and deep sadness attacked them day and night. They could not run away or distract themselves with busy work. They had to sit in the dirt and face the ugly, scary truth of who they really were. Uncovering these deep, hidden motivations was the true, terrifying test of the wasteland. This harsh path into the unknown was not just for men. Soon, women, known as the Desert Mothers, walked away from everything to face the same brutal isolation. One famous figure was Syncletica. She came from a family of massive wealth, surrounded by every worldly comfort. Yet she looked at that gold and saw only a trap in a shocking choice. Syncletica gave away every coin she owned. She traded her soft bed for the cold floor of a dark tomb. She chose to live among the dead rather than stay in a world poisoned by greed. Her extreme sacrifice proved this deep hunger for truth knew no bounds. Once alone in the dirt, their daily routines became strange. They were trying to kill their own pride. To break the human ego, they invented extreme tasks. A man might spend a year weaving heavy baskets, only to set them on fire. He watched his hard work burn to ashes, proving his effort meant nothing. Other tactics were just as severe. Some took vows of absolute silence that lasted for years. They held rocks in their mouths to stop themselves from speaking a single word. They believed human words were full of lies. By shutting their mouths completely, they hoped to hear the quiet truth. But this wild way of living could not last forever. Total isolation was dangerous. The deep silence was driving some people completely crazy. A man named Pachomius saw this madness spreading across the sands. He realized fighting the mind alone in a dark cave was too much for most humans to handle. Pachomius created the first strict rules for living together in the wild. He built walls and organized these wandering souls into a single community. They would eat, work, and pray together, following a rigid daily schedule. This was the birth of Christian monasticism. It transformed a chaotic rush into a highly organized system. Out of this severe new system came a stark level of self-awareness. The ancient wisdom they passed down was not made of happy quotes. Instead, their sayings were sharp, brutal truths about human lies and hypocrisy. They spent years staring into the darkest corners of their own minds. Their stark worldview left no room for pointing fingers. They firmly believed judging another person was the worst crime a human could commit. One monk refused to punish a brother who had done wrong. He said he carried his own sins behind him like a heavy sack of sand. How could he judge anyone else? Even with this profound wisdom, the danger never passed. The most frightening psychological threat they faced came in the blazing heat of the day. They called it the noonday demon. This was a sudden, crushing apathy and a deep, heavy sadness that hit when the sun was highest in the sky. When the noonday demon struck, it made them hate everything. They would suddenly hate their small caves, hate the brothers living next to them, and hate the lives they had chosen. The silence felt like a prison. The urge to run back to the city became a physical ache. Surviving this midday despair was their hardest trial. The biggest truth about these early believers is often missed. The desert fathers and mothers were not running away to hide. They ran into the hot sand to fight. The noisy cities were just a trick to keep people from seeing their own dark hearts. In the deep silence of the Egyptian wilderness, there was nothing to look at but themselves. When the noise was gone, a scary reality set in. They realized the true enemy was never the bad rulers back home. The real danger lived inside their own mind. They went to the wasteland to face their own pride head-on. Their ancient wisdom showed you cannot defeat the darkness outside until you destroy the darkness in your own chest. They wanted to uncover the real motivations behind every thought. Then a strange turn of events happened. These men and women gave up everything to be completely alone. But their extreme choices made them famous. Word spread about the holy people living in caves who could see through human lies. Soon, the very world they tried to leave behind came marching into the dangerous sands to find them. Powerful Roman generals, rich nobles, and sick crowds traveled deep into the wild. They walked for days under the burning sun to ask for a single word of advice from a poor monk. The quiet places suddenly filled with thousands begging for help. The people who wanted to be forgotten became the most important leaders of their time. Look at the world we live in today. The things those early Christians were terrified of are what we build our lives around. They ran from noise and easy comfort because those things put the human soul to sleep. Today we surround ourselves with constant noise. We are terrified of being left alone with our own thoughts. We carry glowing screens that feed us a never-ending stream of easy answers. We created a world that makes it almost impossible to sit in silence and look into that clear mirror they found in the sand. If the silence of the wasteland drove them to the edge of madness, the endless noise of our modern world might be doing something worse. The extreme actions of those desert dwellers did not fade away. Their strict rules became the base of Christian monasticism. Across Europe and the Middle East, massive stone buildings were built using the exact plans created by those first wild believers. These quiet places kept reading, writing, and history alive during the darkest times that followed. The heavy cost of their choices still touches lives right now. Even today, monks and nuns wake up in the freezing dark to sing the exact same prayers first spoken in those dry caves. They still give up money and freedom to keep that ancient promise alive. The raw courage it takes to face the human mind has not changed. For ordinary people, their stark teachings still cut like a sharp knife. When a person today feels completely empty inside, despite having a house full of nice things, they are feeling the exact truth those old saints warned about. The deep sadness from a life of constant buying is the modern version of their midday demon. Today, the caves where Antony and the others fought their silent battles sit empty in the harsh Egyptian sun. The wind blows sand over the broken rocks, hiding the footprints of the millions who traveled there. Yet in small rooms all over the world, modern believers still sit in silence, closing their eyes to shut out the noise. Today, people who want to uncover the true motivations of these early believers still travel to the dry Egyptian wilderness. They walk through the exact same dust where St. Anthony and the desert fathers and mothers fought their dark battles. The human cost of their choice is still felt right now. Christian monasticism was born in these harsh sands, and it completely changed how millions of people seek God. When modern seekers visit these empty caves, they do not find easy answers. They find a heavy silence that demands total honesty. The ancient wisdom they left behind is not a soft blanket to hide under, but a sharp mirror showing us who we really are. The final memory of their struggle is not a grand church or a loud crowd. It is just a single, empty stone cave looking out over the endless desert inside. The wind still whispers the same quiet truth they gave up everything to protect. If you sit still enough in that dark space, you can finally stop running and face the only thing left.